Good morning, everybody. Matt Moda here to give you my NBA player prop bangers. We're talking tonight, November 1st, Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy November, everybody. I can't believe we are already there. I'm going to have 4 NBA player prop picks for you guys to lock in for tonight. Of course, all 4 are of the plus money banger variety because that's how we do things here. 4 plays for tonight's splash zone. 4 guys who I think are going to be able to splash around and get us wet tonight. Finally, last night, we had a good day on this NBA season. We only got 2 of our 3 plays to cash, but 2 of 3 equals profit, and all 3 of those plays were plus money bangers. We cashed out Brook Lopez over 1.5 made 3-pointers. We cashed out James Harden over 5.5 rebounds, and then we lost Julian Champagnie 12 plus points. Just a bad read on him. Probably going to have to take a break from Champagnie, at least for the foreseeable future, but it was nice to have a profitable day yesterday, up a little bit under 1.3 units, like 1.28 was the exact amount of profit that we were up yesterday. On the entire season, we've still got some work to do, down about 4.5 units on the year, but the process has come close a couple times and then finally had a profitable night last year. With that same process, we are up over 118 units of profit, up over 15% ROI. So even with the rough start to the season, I'm confident that we're going to start making our money back. I'm confident that by the end of this month, let's call it a 20 units of profit month. That's my goal in November. Hopefully that starts tonight and we can get right into it. So play number 1, we are taking Rudy Gobert over 11.5 rebounds. You can get this at plus 105 odds at both BetMGM and ESPN Bet. When I first locked this in, I actually got a worse price, but I was able to resend it out at a better price. So that plus 105 number, that's the best price before I hit record. Rebound props against the Nuggets this season have just absolutely crushed. It's something that I should have been on before tonight, but I'll gladly take an admittedly big number for Rudy Gobert. Rematch of the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, this is a massive game tonight. But you look at the data so far this year, the Nuggets have literally allowed the most rebounds to centers in the entire NBA. They've allowed 20.5 rebounds to centers per game, which is a ton. Now, technically, they're tied with the Pelicans at that number. Both them and the Pelicans have allowed 20.5 per number. Either way, leading the NBA in rebounds to centers. All 4 starting centers against the Nuggets have gone over this rebound prop. Literally all 4. Chet Holmgren had 14 rebounds on the opening night of the season. His over-under was 8.5. 14 rebounds, over-under was 8.5. Ivica Zubac, 15 rebounds. His over-under was 10.5. Jakob Poeltl, 19 rebounds. His over-under was 7.5. And Nicholas Claxton, 12 rebounds on an over-under of 8.5. So not only have all of these starting centers gone over their rebound prop, but they've all actually crushed their over as well. Like the closest one would have been Nick Claxton, who had 12 rebounds on an over-under of 8.5. It's just crazy how many rebounds teams have been able to get against the Nuggets. The reason for this, it's all because of the Nuggets shot diet. They don't really have any three-point shooting anymore. Got rid of KCP. Christian Brown hasn't been able to shoot. Julian Strawther hasn't been able to shoot. Even Jamal Murray has had a slow start to the year. So the shot diet for the Nuggets has just been close to the basket. And it's physics. I talk about this all the time. The closer the shot is to the basket when it's shot from, like where it's shot from, the shorter it leaves the rim if it misses, which leads to more rebound opportunities for centers. And just to put that into context for you, the Nuggets have taken the second most field goal attempts within 5 feet from the basket and the second most shots in the restricted area as well. Now, obviously that has a lot to do with Jokic, but it's just the Nuggets shot profile in general. That's the area in which Gobert is going to be patrolling. He's going to be there for all those rebound opportunities from shots that are close to the basket. And looking at Gobert, it's a number that he's cashed in 2 of 4 games so far this year. One game he went under, he had exactly 11, so just would have gotten the hook there, but shows that he has a very good floor. The 2 games that he went over, 23 and 28 rebound chances. And one of the games, he had a horrible game from a rebounding perspective against the Mavericks. He actually had more rebound chances than the game in which he had 11 rebounds. And then you look at Gobert against the Nuggets specifically, he's hit this in every single regular season game against the Nuggets last year. He actually got 15 rebounds against the Nuggets in 2 of their regular season games last year. So very confident that Rudy Gobert is going to be able to get us to 12 plus rebounds, cashing out our first play of the day. Next up, I'm taking Jaylen Brown over 4.5 first quarter points. We're going right back to our first quarter king in Jaylen Brown. plus 105 odds at Bet 365. It's crazy that they're giving us his first quarter point prop at an over-under of 4.5, and it's crazy that they're still pricing it at plus money. I understand a little bit the logic why. It's because his minutes are down in the first quarter compared to last year. Like this year, he has yet to play more than 9 minutes in the first quarter. They're taking him out between like the 6-minute and the 8-minute mark. I guess I should say they're taking him out after playing between 6 and 8 minutes in the first quarter. So last year he averaged 9.5 first quarter minutes. That's down this year, 100%. I can't argue with the rotations, but even with the fact that he has played limited minutes compared to last year in the first quarter, he still scored 5 or more points in 3 of 5 games this year in the regular season. And the most important thing here is he's getting shots up in the first quarter. He knows I'm only playing 6 minutes maybe in the first quarter. Guess what? I'm going to get my shots out. He's attempted at least 5 shots in the first quarter in 4 of 5 games this year. And last game in which he went over, and we bet that, he attempted 7. As long as he's continuing to get 5+ field goal attempts in the first quarter, and as long as this prop is continuing to be priced at 4.5 with the over at plus money, it's going to be a play 100%. He's also attempted at least 2 3-pointers in 3 of 5 games as well. And even last game where he did cash this over for us, he shot horribly in that game. It was honestly kind of lucky that he was able to go over for us because he went 4 of 7 in the first quarter. The entire game, Jaylen Brown went 11 of 30. So he is due for some improvement in a shooting perspective. And, in an easy matchup against the Hornets, which we're going to get into, after a game in which the Celtics lost, after a game in which Jaylen Brown shot horribly, the guess is that he's going to come out aggressive, have a good game in the first quarter. And even when we're talking about the minutes limit, if we cap his first quarter minutes played at 9, so we're literally only looking at games in which he played 9 or fewer minutes in the first quarter. Brown hit this number in 74% of his games dating back to last year, cashed it at least 5 points in 17 of 23 games, again, in which he played fewer than 9 first quarter minutes. And if you look at games in which he's played 8 or fewer minutes, he's cashed it in 18 of his last 30 games. That dates back a couple years, but 18 of his last 30 games in which he's played at least 8 minutes in the first quarter, he's scored 5 or more points. Again, this year, he's done it in 3 of 5 games, and in 2 of the games, he scored at least 5 points. He did not even get to 6 minutes. The last game, played fewer than 6 minutes in the first quarter, still went over this number. It's an excellent matchup for Jaylen Brown against a horrible Hornets defense, which we're now going to get into. Specifically, this Hornets defense is bad at guarding the ways in which Jaylen Brown scores. That's what makes it a good matchup for Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, so far this year, has scored the majority of his points via transition, right? Running the fast break. The Hornets have the 6th worst transition defense in the NBA. From there, the second most points that Jaylen Brown has scored this year has actually come at the line. He's done a really good job. He's always been good at this, but drawing contact, getting to the line. The Hornets have fouled at the 6th highest rate in the NBA. Going even deeper than that, the Hornets have allowed the 3rd most field goal attempts in the restricted area. And Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum has been better at this year than normally, but Jaylen Brown has always been the one on the Celtics that's able to drive and score at the paint and stuff like that, right? Part of that is getting to the line, which Brown has always been better than that at Jason Tatum. But Jaylen Brown has the most field goal attempts in the restricted area on the Celtics. I love getting him to get to 5 points in the first quarter, especially at the plus price. I think it's crazy. That's play number 2. Play number 3, Kevin Huerter, 3+ made 3-pointers, plus 136 odds at FanDuel. So last night, when we finally had a good night in the NBA, we also cashed our first 3-point prop this NBA season as well. We got another one tonight with Kevin Huerter. Let's make it 2 in a row 3-point props for tonight. I absolutely love Kevin Huerter in this matchup against the Hawks. If you wanted to be safe, you could take his point prop. I think his over-under is at 10.5. The majority of his points come from 3-point range. We're getting him to make 3+ 3-pointers at plus 136, so I think that's way better value. But if you wanted to be safer, you could just take the points. Now, this Hawks defense is what we're targeting here. Now, their defense has admittedly been terrible in a lot of different ways, right? They're a bad defense almost across the board. So this is not me saying this is the only area in which the Hawks have struggled. But one of the areas in which they've struggled is guarding spot-up shooters like Kevin Huerter. Now, the Hawks, they don't allow a ton of points or shot attempts specifically on the corners, right? They're generally pretty good. They're top half at limiting corner 3-point attempts on both sides of the corner. One area in which they're really bad at is guarding the above-the-break 3-pointer. Literally, they have allowed teams to take and make the most above-the-break 3-pointers against them. They've also allowed the most made catch and shoot 3-pointers against them as well. So these above the break 3-point opportunities, they are coming from pull-ups, as the Hawks have allowed a decent amount of pull-ups. So that would also lead you to, if you want to take a De'Aaron Fox 3-point prop as well. But it's also catch and shoot. It's not just pull-ups from the above the break. They can't guard pick and roll ball handlers. And one of the worst defense at guarding pick and roll ball handlers. That's what happens when you have Trae Young at defense. So they allow people to just get into the paint, penetrate, drive into the paint with ease. That leads to a ton of drive and kick opportunities. And because they close out the corners so aggressively, it's 2 passes. It's De'Aaron Fox driving, kicks it out to someone who's on the corner. That player's guarded. That player kicks it out to whoever's standing at the above the break 3-pointer. That's where these open shots are coming from. And Kevin Huerter, he scores, unsurprisingly, Kevin Huerter, he has attempted the most of his shot attempts have been above the break 3-pointers. 31% of his field goal attempts have been above the break 3-point attempts. That's the most of any spot on the court. Unsurprisingly, he's also scored the most points on the Kings as a spot-up shooter. And that's actually been the 8th most points overall in the NBA as well. So it's the most on the Kings and the 8th most in the NBA. He's tied with Keegan Murray with the most made catch and shoot 3-pointers on the Kings. He's tied for the second most made above the break 3-pointers as well. Only De'Aaron Fox is ahead of him in terms of above the break 3-pointers. But this is a little bit of a better matchup for Kevin Huerter. And, you know, we're kind of getting him off of a poor shooting game as well. He hit the second, so the Kings have played 4 games. The second and third games of the year, Kevin Huerter hit 4 3-pointers in both those games, back-to-back games in which he hit 4 3-pointers. He missed it last game, so he's going to bounce back, make at least 3 for us tonight, cash out this plus money banger. Last up, 4th and final pick of the video, we're taking Nikola Jokic. You might have heard of him. 30-plus points, plus 150 odds at DraftKings. So his over-under point prop is, I believe, 27.5. I just pumped it up to 30 points to get that plus money price. I admittedly have been burned on that a couple times this year by getting hooked on these point props, but it's what led me to make 118 units of profit last year. So I'm not just going to let 2 days in which we got hooked on basically all our plays to scare me off of the strategy that worked so well last year. Now, looking at Jokic, it's been a slow season for the Nuggets overall. You know, they're 2-2. Their only 2 wins have been against the worst teams in the NBA and the Raptors and the Nets. But Jokic, he's been awesome, right? The slow start for the Nuggets has not been a slow start for Jokic. He actually leads the NBA in points per game with 31.5. That ties him with Tyrese Maxey. And looking at his game log, he'd scored 40 points in back-to-back games, and then he missed it last game. He did not score 40 points. He did not get to the 30 number. He would have just hooked us with 29. At the rate this season's going, I wouldn't be shocked if he got us to 29 and hooked us again, but I think it's such a good matchup for Rudy Gobert that with Nikola Jokic, that I'm cool pumping that number up to 30, getting that plus price. He gets a matchup against the Timberwolves. Now, you would not expect the Timberwolves to be a good matchup for center point props, and they're generally not, but it depends on the type of center that they're playing. If it's just a rim running under the basket type of guy, they're not going to have a ton of success against the Timberwolves. But so far this season, Timberwolves have allowed the 5th most points per game to centers in the entire NBA. Centers that have gone off against the Timberwolves, Anthony Davis has done a lot of damage to the Timberwolves this year. I mean, it's only been 4 games, so that's 25% of the starting centers that they've played. Jokic is just as capable as Anthony Davis of scoring in similar ways that Anthony Davis did. Now, Davis is more of like an athletic freak, high-flying kind of guy, whereas Jokic is back to the basket on these little push shots and stuff. But regardless, both of these players, AD and Jokic, they score in the ways in which the Timberwolves funnel shots, right? The Timberwolves, they don't give up anything in the restricted area. That's because of Rudy Gobert. Where the Timberwolves get crushed is, it's called and defined by NBA.com as the non-restricted area of the paint. So we're still looking at the paint, but just not that little circle, the restricted area of the basket. Rudy Gobert is patrolling the paint, giving up nothing at the rim. They don't give up really many 3-pointers as well. They funnel these shots into this specific area, which is generally good defense. But when you're playing someone as good as Jokic or as good as Anthony Davis earlier in the year, that's when you can get burned. The Timberwolves have allowed the most made and attempted field goals in that area of the court. This is per NBA.com. Again, we're talking non-restricted area of the paint. They've given up the most made and attempted field goals in that area. And Jokic is really good in this area of the court as well. Now, Jokic is really good in the restricted area. He's good in a lot of places, but he's got such good touch on that push shot, that floater right outside the restricted area. And Jokic, unsurprisingly, has scored the most points in that specific area of the court. Most points in the paint, but non-restricted area in the entire NBA. So you look at all that, no surprise that Jokic has generally dominated this matchup against the Timberwolves, especially in the regular season. He scored 30 points in the last 3 regular season meetings between these two teams, 35, 32, 41 points in those 3 games. He also did it in 4 of 7 playoff games last year as well. He had a couple of slow games, but it was a weird playoff series. Like, not a lot of the games were actually close. Games that were close, like Game 7, Jokic went over this number. So I'm expecting tonight's game is going to be close. It's a massive game for both teams. The Timberwolves always get up for the Nuggets. Jokic has always played well against the Timberwolves. So I think it's going to be, it's going to be a great game. Hopefully we get 12 rebounds from Gobert. Hopefully we get 30 points from Jokic. Cash out both of these bangers in the same game. But that's all we got. I appreciate everybody for watching. Of course, make sure to like the video, make sure to comment, make sure to subscribe. And then the last thing that I will mention is, I mentioned at the end of every video, is that I do have a Dub Club where I send all my plays out. Gets you everything that I'm playing across all sports. So right now, we're talking all NBA and all NFL. If you're unfamiliar, Dub Club is just a service you can sign up for to get plays sent to you from people like me. Again, $5 a month gets everything sent directly to your phone via text, email, or Telegram. So as soon as I decide what a play is, the first thing I do is send it out to Dub Club. So for those of you that don't always watch the YouTube videos, that don't care enough, you don't always have time. I get it. We all have busy lives. You don't always have time to watch the videos, or you just want to get the plays in before the odds change. That's why I have the Dub Club. You know, last night we had a ton of positive CLV on the Harden and the Brook Lopez plays. People in the Dub Club were able to get the exact same prices that I got. So if you're frustrated about line movement, that's also why I have the Dub Club. But if you don't care about any of that stuff, you just want to get everything for free, you can on YouTube and on Twitter. And now that's all we got. I appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.